Welcome back. FG Nexus announcing it has entered into a digital currency loan this week, $10 million backed by staked Ethereum. The company can now borrow additional digital currency or cash from the lender. The stock is trading near 52-week lows right now after a recent sale of its majority stake in Devonale Holdings, worth $3 million in cash. Bitcoin also took a hit, falling below $100,000 for the first time since June. Joining me right now is FG Nexus co-founder and chairman Joe Moglia. Joe, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here, Maria.
We've been out on the growth curve, whether it be AI stocks or Bitcoin, and just in the last couple of days, coming back to earth just a little. How do you see things right now?
Well, I think as far as cryptocurrency goes, it's taken about a 15% hit over the span of the last couple of weeks or 10 days. But that's coming off a pretty significant rally from the summertime. So I don't look at this as a major problem. I think it's a healthy correction in a pretty positive market. I think as far as the rest of the market goes, we're only 2% off the highs. It doesn't feel that good, but we're only 2% off the highs.
Great point.
So I'm still as bullish as I have been. But when you're bullish, there's still going to be corrections. We can't get overly concerned about bubbles and all sorts of other stuff. Right. There's enough craziness in the world going on right now in our country.
There sure is. And I want to ask you about that because I want to get your take on what you're expecting for 2026. Because right now, we have a government shutdown, and I believe it is impacting the economy now in a much more severe way than people know. Because right now, you got Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, cutting 10% of flights at 40 airports. Isn't that going to be a real impact to the GDP? How do you see this government shutdown impacting things?
I mean, there's going to be a trickle-down impact. First of all, I've got an issue with the leadership that we've got in Congress to begin with, and their job is to do what they believe is the right thing for our country. But what's been happening over the span of the last decade or so, each party goes out of their way to kind of prevent the other party from getting elected or reelected, and they spend all the time doing that. So right now, the fact that 15% of our country are government workers and the fact that many of them are not getting paychecks is a joke when Congress is getting paid. When Congress does anything that prevents one of our people getting paid, they shouldn't get paid, number one.
Good point.
Number two, I've got a personal stake in this. You want to hear it?
Yeah, sure I do.
When I was 19 years old, I was married. I had a daughter. I was going to Fordham. I had to pay every penny of my education, take care of my daughter and my wife. I worked for the United States Post Office on 18th Street and Chelsea Station.
Wow.
If I lost one paycheck, we were living hand to mouth anyway, I was dead. I mean, I was dead. Now, more recently, it took me 5 extra hours to get up here last night for this show.
Well, there's that, too.
It's all a combination of all that.
And the Congressional Budget Office is projecting a $14 billion hit to the economy if the government shutdown lasts 8 weeks. We are on day 37, the longest shutdown in history. President Trump talked about the state of the economy with Republican senators yesterday. Watch this.
We are in the midst of a disastrous Democrat-created government shutdown, and it is Democrat-created, but I don't think they're getting really the blame that they should. That's now officially the longest shutdown in American history. The Democrat radicals in the Senate have shown zero interest in reopening the government. I think these guys are kamikaze. They'll take down the country if they have to. We must get the government back open soon, and really immediately. We have to get it up. We have the hottest economy we've ever had. And it's affecting the stock market now a little bit. But the stock market, as of Friday, has hit many record highs during the last 9 months. That's going to be an economic boon as soon as they open up.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was the second largest, longest shutdown was during President Trump's first term. The Democrats shut it down then, too. And yet, look at this market. Dow Industrial's up 225 yesterday. The NASDAQ up 151. You're still bullish, you said, even with all of this.
Yeah, no, I am. I think.
But, I mean, this is all politics. So the Democrats shut down. They want chaos in President Trump's second term. They want it in the first term as well.
I mean, I totally agree with that. Yeah. But the markets still feel good. AI is going to have a real positive impact in terms of what's going on. No matter what kind of conflict we have now, we have a positive pro-business administration and president. We're getting much greater clarity around crypto. We've got deregulation. We've got lower taxes. We've got a lot of great things going on. And I think the individual investor needs to be a little careful because of the corrections and because of the volatility. So he should be dollar cost averaging as opposed to just jumping in there. But I think you absolutely got to be invested.
What do you think about the Supreme Court hearing arguments on President Trump's tariff plan? Some executives are also warning a market correction is coming. Do you find this tariff hearing to have a big impact, do you think, if they go against the president? I was just reading Nancy Lazar's firm, and one of the analysts there, Andy LaPerriere, is very good on the political stance, and he's expecting look at what he's just read this now. He's expecting 6 to 9 votes to strike down Trump's IEEPA tariffs. So he says, look, if anything, we expected the administration would have a high probability that the Supreme Court rules that the president does not have the authority to issue these tariffs without Congress.
With everything that's gone on, with Trump talking about tariffs from the first time around, and then his entire campaign, and with what's going on now, if all of a sudden that gets turned around, there's going to be chaos as far as the market goes. Because the lack of clarity is the worst thing that can happen for the market. If we don't even know whether or not the tariffs are going to actually exist, or they're going to continue to be implemented, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be an issue.
So you do think then that will affect the markets if
Absolutely. I don't know how it can't.
The president.
I don't know how it can't.
So would you be a buyer in that scenario, or you want to take to the sidelines and wait and see how it plays out?
I don't think this is going to happen, and I'm not going to the sidelines. So until something like this becomes more significant, I would still stay involved with the market. Now, if something like that happened, I would be a seller sooner rather than later.
If, in fact, the SCOTUS goes against the president.
Yes, but I don't believe that's going to happen. I think there's too many other things going on.
Okay. Joe, you're also the executive advisor for the president of Coastal Carolina University. And the team is doing quite well. You were the coach, obviously, now on a 3-game winning streak. Congrats. I mean, look at your Carolinas. What are you expecting?
I think the team looks much better than we had been the first part of the season. I'm proud of the guys for that. We've got Georgia State and Georgia Southern coming up in the next couple of weeks. Those are important games for us. We've got homecoming this weekend. So after the show, I'm going to have to get back because I'm going to meet with about 25 of my former players that are coming in for this. So I'm excited about that. But I'm proud of the team. We're playing hard. We're doing a good job.
That is awesome. Joe, it's great to see you.
Great to be on, Maria. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Joe Moglia joining us here. Stay with us. We'll be right back.